Good afternoon. It's 3 p.m. and it's Learning Forward Saturday. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate the teachers who put in their life and blood for building a better nation. We look up to you and salute you for all you do. And we hope that we can help you become better in whatever you do, as simple as that. लास्ट वीक हमने जो किया था उसका मैंने आपसे लिंक शेयर किया था और मैं अभी स्क्रीन पे उसको ले आके एक क्विक रिकैप कर देता हूं अपने लास्ट वीक के सेशन को, ताकि आप लोगों को थोड़ा सा रिकैप हो जाएगा। सो लास्ट वीक हमने आपके जो रिव्यूज थे, आपकी जो रिफ्लेक्शंस थी, आपकी जो पोस्ट थी चैप्टर 1 की, वी वेंट थ्रू दोज and we understood that there is a difference in reflection and notes. I hope that is clear. We familiarized you with some AI tools and we said that we need your reflection and we don't need AI's reflection. PYDS gave a very interesting visual image. We shared some blog editing tools with you. We read out Sunbeam Balia reflections and we spoke to Pooja, who told us how she had beautifully used a prompt and engineered a lovely reflection. Thank you, Pooja. That was very enlightening for all of us. So ये एक छोटी सी समरी थी। इसमें PYDS ने शेयर करना था टीचर ग्राफिक, आई थिंक उन्होंने कर दिया था, और AI टूल्स हमने दिखा दिए, फोकस ऑन रिफ्लेक्शन ये भी बता दिया, अवॉइड टाइम स्पेसिफिक फ्रेजेस क्लियर, और हमने आपको रिक्वेस्ट किया था अपने कोलीग्स को ऐड कर दें व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में। सहर मैम ने बहुत लोगों को किया, आप लोग भी बाकी के कोलीग्स को प्लीज ऐड कर दें। द मोर द मेरियर। दैट्स इट। आई थिंक देयर इज नथिंग बियॉन्ड दिस, सो लेट्स गेट ऑन टू रीडिंग। We start today chapter 2 of the book, Wanted Backbencher Last Ranker Teacher. So Roma has got a job. Roma has been hired as a replacement or a substitute for 6 months. She's got a temporary job. And Roma goes to the class. So जब नई टीचर क्लास में जाती है, उसके साथ कैसा व्यवहार होता है वो इस चैप्टर में है। वॉर वर्सेस पीस, मतलब टीचर क्लास में पहुंची और महायुद्ध हो रहा था। ये आप लोगों के साथ भी होता होगा, जब आप क्लास में जाते हैं, बच्चे खूब हरकत कर रहे होते हैं। It was Roma's 4th week in school already. She smiled good-naturedly at the routine discussion in the staff room as she dipped a tea bag in her peach-colored china cup. Has break begun? Asked Ranjita, the biology teacher, peeping out of the washroom anxiously as she colored her lips with a berry red lipstick. Her diamond-studded earrings twinkled brightly in her earlobes as she brushed her burgundy-tinted hair to stylishly curl around her heart-shaped face. Then she outlined her eyes with an exotic midnight blue eye pencil. How much teachers have to work before they go out to the class? Yes, it has started and will end in 5 minutes. By the time you finish making use of all your cosmetics you carry in your purse, answered Sumita, laughing gently at her colleague and friend, crinkling her nose in mischievous reproof. Sumita taught chemistry in the senior high school students. Hey Roma, how are things with you? Asked Sharon. All good, Roma answered with a smile, taking a large swallow of green tea. She had a class in 5 minutes. It felt great being here, she thought happily. Everybody in school was warm and cheerful. She had begun feeling at home in just a couple of days. Sumita offered Roma a biscuit. How is your class? I hope they aren't giving you trouble. She studied the new teacher curiously. Roma took a couple of seconds, nibbling at the murray biscuit as she thought of an appropriate reply. Oh, we are still in the process of getting to know each other. She smiled faintly, unwilling to show her anxiety. She did not wish to discuss her class. They were her class, no matter what they did. They were family. So, as of now, we are in the classroom, and Roma is not willing to comment anything of the class because she feels the class is mine, and what happens between me and my children is very sacred. So, that is how a teacher treats her class. Diplomatic. We heard you stomped out of class twice last week when they refused to listen to you. Did you? Sumita asked, smiling. She rearranged the pleats of her moga silk sari neatly, running the comb through her salt and pepper hair. She fixed tame only with Sumita. Sorry, I think I missed something. She fixed the loose wisps that had begun with her elegant bun so that she looked absolutely flawless. Not a hair out of place. Her exquisite silk saris, pearls around her neck, her darkened eyes, and coral colored lipstick. She was a paragon of perfection. That's what teachers try to be always. Added to this aura of sophistication was her experience as a teacher and knowledge of a subject. It set her apart from the other teachers who respected her outstanding qualifications, experience, and the manner in which she disciplined her students. When she taught chemistry, there was pin drop silence in the classroom. It was my fault. I should have been more patient, Roma responded. That class and patience? Keep dreaming, Roma. It won't happen. They are tame only when Sumita, Ria said, she taught math to the class. So there is a teacher, Sumita, who can only handle that difficult class, which Roma handles. And what they are trying to tell her, it's a tough class. There's no way you can handle it. Ria is right. I am speechless when I hear the questions those kids ask and other teachers. In my class, they don't dare. It's called class control and comes with my years. And let me tell you, I was their class teacher last year. That I lost a lot of my hair executing that grueling task is also a fact. Sumita said, laughing softly. Unconsciously, she touched the receding hairline, which seemed to be getting worse every time she looked in the mirror. So, Sumita is a senior teacher. She is giving her experience, how she handles the class in a tough way. The other day, the ninth graders asked me why they needed to do math every day when computers and calculators are available. Now, what answer can you give to such a ridiculous question? Ria asks, looking for Sumita helplessly. So this is the kind of question they ask. What was your reply? Asked Roma, extremely curious. She rinsed her cup in the pantry, tucked away in a corner of the cozy staff room. She needed to learn how the others dealt with classroom problems. She was fortunate to be working with such an experienced faculty. Answering the questions of teenagers was challenging. Sometimes one did not even have the time to think of an appropriate reply. Bang, there was the question, and the mind went blank. This happens to us in a class where students just want to ask you questions to trouble you, and before you can answer one, they'll ask you 10 more. I'm sure you experience it. This is their way of evening out with the teachers. Don't ask ridiculous questions. Just do as you are told. What else can one say to stupid questions? Ria answered angrily. That's exactly where we are going wrong, my friends, came the gentle response from the school counselor. Now, the school counselor is also in the staff room. So she is listening to the teachers having a conversation. स्कूल काउंसलर अब टीचर्स को सहारा देने के लिए स्टाफ रूम में है और ये जो चैलेंज वो फेस कर रहे हैं अपनी क्लास में उनको समझा रही है. Everyone turned to look at Uttara, a bright yellow sari draped gracefully around a slender figure. Wouldn't you all agree the kids are somewhat right? Think of it from their perspective. When there are calculators, why should they struggle with calculations? The question is a fair one. We need an answer that will satisfy them. We have to get them to understand why learning to calculate mentally and manually is important. A probable answer could be because it helps to generate confidence in ourselves and a sense of achievement that the computers and calculators do not control us. It's very interesting. It's answering a question which you face with your devices today. Why you should be able to do things without devices. Don't you agree we can control aggression in the classroom in this way by being calm and smart? So, no counter aggression, right? Roma asked. Exactly. Counter aggression escalates the problem. It does not solve it. It often fulfills conscious or subconscious desire of the student to disrupt class and get attention. Keep in mind that the teacher who's upset is likely to say or do things that will worsen the problem. That's what research says. It is easier said than done, Uttara. In a 35-minute class, there are perhaps 4 to 5 absurd questions and comments. It's not possible to think of an appropriate and correct reply every time. Aggression is bound to occur when students have no sense to what to ask, when Ranjita responded harshly. So students do get aggressive and I'm sure you face this challenge. आप अपनी क्लास में ये चैलेंज को महसूस करते हैं कि स्टूडेंट रेस्टलेस हो जाते हैं, इम्पेशेंट हो जाते हैं और आपको परेशान करने के लिए बहुत सवाल पूछते हैं. अब आगे चलते हैं, इसका हल क्या है? Ranjita is right. Spend 10 minutes doing what we do the entire day and you will understand how difficult it is to put your advice into practice. Ria added frustration in her voice. I'm well aware that a teacher's job is challenging, but I suggest we remain calm and answer smartly without getting angry. टीचर को कभी नाराज या गुस्सा नहीं होना चाहिए. Respond from the intellect, not from the gut. It is a win-win method which enables you to address the problem without allowing your students to be in control. This way, you will be the master of the situation, not they. A smile lit up in Uttara's lovely eyes. Roma nodded in silent agreement, picking up her books. She joined the others, leaving the staff room. The corridor echoed with cordial agreements, animated disputes, and the telling of interesting classroom snippets as the teachers dispersed to their classes. अब हम स्टाफ रूम से बाहर निकले, क्लास की तरफ जा रहे हैं. जो काउंसलर का ज्ञान था वो तो रह गया स्टाफ रूम में. अब आगे चल के देखते हैं क्या होगा. Seems a very warm day here today. Roma had a class with the 10th graders and wanted to be on time. Yesterday, she had been cunningly waylaid on the way to the class, and it had cost her 10 minutes of class time. Many of the 10th graders are still in the washroom, thinking what had worked yesterday worked today as well. So they try and delay the teacher from coming into the class. Interesting, isn't it? Supriya preened before the large wall-to-wall mirror, pulling out silky black locks from her neatly combed shoulder braids and letting them fall over her forehead. Then she slowly fashioned the looks into a diva on the ramp. So this is what the students are doing. They're getting ready to go into the class. Then she slowly fashioned the locks into the diva on the ramp and intently studied her transformed image. Tilting her head and pouting her lips, she glanced condescendingly, at Rakhi's reflection. So these are two friends or two students in the washroom getting ready. She was watching intently. Short and dark, Rakhi was in awe of Supriya and her gang. They called themselves the Sizzlers. No matter how hard she tried at home, spending hours in front of the small bathroom mirror, Raki was unable to make herself look like Supriya and her friends. Boys always stared at them, and everybody wanted to talk to them. They were so popular. And her mother was getting worried at the number of hours she spent in the washroom, wondering why Raki had an upset tummy so often. It's a school rule that you cannot wear kohl. Raki said to Supriya matter of factly, trying to wield the growing bitterness deep within her at the yawning gap between her and others. When she was a little girl, she had often complained to her mother that it embarrassed her in school to be so dark. She had asked why her mother had not married a man with a fair complexion. She would then have had milky skin like Supriya. So these are challenges teenagers face. मेरा कॉम्प्लेक्शन ऐसा है, ऐसा क्यों है, उसको कवर करने के लिए वो बहुत कुछ करते हैं. दे आर पार्ट ऑफ अ गैंग एंड दैट्स लाइफ इन फॉर यंगस्टर्स इन अ स्कूल. सो ये सुप्रिया और राखी की जो रिलेशनशिप है, दैट वेयर्स अराउंड लुक्स. Why you poor partridge? Partridge is a bird. So she said, why you poor partridge? Is it fake concern or real envy that makes you quack like that? Anyways, we can always say we attended a wedding last evening. So our eyes still have the remnants of coal. Today, coal must be Kajal, I think. Simple. But why is it bothering you? Any which way, Simi chuckled nastily, double folding her skirt at the waist to lift the hemline above the permissible length. A partridge doesn't quack, Simi, a duck does that. But you wouldn't know the difference if they were to appear right in front of you because you slept through kindergarten. Dreaming of stupid blonde haired dolls, I suppose, spat Chami, giving a high five to Rakhi, her best friend for donkey's years. They had been friends ever since they had shared a lost orange wafer in nursery. So they're remembering nursery days. So, what is it, you are intelligent partridge mammal pets? Simi mocked in a sing song voice, making a comical face and sticking out her tongue. There was a sound of approaching feet in the corridor. The entire group of 11 girls turned to look at the doorway as plump Patricia peeked into the overcrowded washroom. Hey guys, she's walking up the stairs for English class. Hurry up. Patricia spoke dramatically in a hushed voice, placing two chubby hands around her mouth to keep the information hushed. She was the Sherlock Holmes of the class. थोड़ा सा अपडेट, ये बच्चे तैयार हो रहे हैं अपनी मैडम को क्लास में रिसीव करने के लिए. ये क्लास 10 के बच्चे हैं. सो वो आपस में जो डायलॉग था उनके मेकअप के बारे में और उसकी पर्सनल लुक्स के बारे में ये बच्चे आपस में करते हैं आज के टीनेजर्स. अब एक टीनेजर ने आके बोला कि हमारी मैडम आने वाली है और हमको क्लास में जाना चाहिए. तो दैट्स द नेक्स्ट स्टेज. Hey, thanks, dude. Supriya blew a silent kiss towards her and quickly reached behind her head to tighten the clips and tuck the wildly ruffled locks back in place. It was in vain. The locks kept falling over her eyes. Blast the mess! She cursed as she turned abruptly and almost walked over Chami's foot. Relax, guys. Anyways, Miss Henkel, the new discipline in charge, is going to send back home for looking like this. Oh, what's the hurry, dude? Chami said, sweetly a feline swipe at the hated girls that didn't leave any talon marks. Just shut up, you stupid owls. Simi hissed, pulling out her skirt to hide the folded in waist of her skirt. Your pathetic vocabulary needs upgrading, seriously. Vartikanya drawled, winking at Raki conspiratively, as she silently pointed to the tools of revenge hidden under the wash basins. Guys, hurry up. She'll be walking into the class in 2 minutes. Patricia moaned desperately. In her unremitting efforts to be part of the famous gang, she was going to be in trouble again today, trying to do the tasks assigned to her by the self styled sizzlers. Just run around, Pat, and stop her wherever she is. Engage her with some random problem while we sneak into the classroom. Supriya cracked out order in an authoritative voice. She was still desperately trying to tame her disobedient and untidy hair. But Supriya, Patricia was propelled into the corridor, extended fingers poking into her shoulder blades. The sizzlers, unaware of the impending disaster, walked out, noses in the air, past the male audience gathered in the corridor. ये जो गैंग ऑफ गर्ल्स है अब चला अपनी क्लास की तरफ कॉरिडोर के थ्रू. Have you nothing better to do than to stand there all day checking you out, girls? Asked Rupa disdainfully to they passed large group of drenched boys. So अब रूपा क्लासरूम की तरफ जा रही है तो लड़के मिले उसे रास्ते में. सो रूपा ने डिसडेनफुली लड़कों से पूछा कि आप लोगों के पास कुछ करने को नहीं है. Boys had drenched hair, water dripping from their hair, and uniforms two large pools on the floor. There had been an appalling water fight in the boys' washroom a short while ago. As the sizzlers walked towards the class, they were unaware their names were being written on the walls of the girls' washroom they had just vacated. The remaining girls in the washroom had set the task, commissioned long ago by their leader Rudrika, to draw on the washroom walls. Let's begin the war for the noble cause, my friends. अब एक और gang आ गया. Rudrika whispered, and the washroom walls were autographed and decorated in charcoal with the names of the recent occupants who had left their hiked up skirts, darkened eyes, and untidy hair. Rip Sizzlers. They laughed, raising their hands in mock salute at the names inscribed in black on the cream walls. No one would ever imagine they were the ones who had done this because they were consistently good in studies and always considered well bred and well behaved by the teachers. Patricia was unable to delay the targeted teacher by a second time. Roma patiently waited outside the classroom to greet the girls, trying to scurry in. She wore a red blazer over her bottle green and black sari. She asked them, including a few of the drenched boys, to get into line so she could say hello one by one. Ekta, please mute your mic. Ekta Singh, please mute. Please ensure your mics are on mute. Thank you so much. So this is the story, and Roma is in the corridor. She is seen the boys and girls as they are, and now here she's trying to get hold of the situation. Finally, she asked them all, including few of the drenched boys, to get into line so that she could say hello one by one. So that's Roma trying to get an introduction. As the glum-faced teenagers stood in line waiting for their turn, Roma reached out and straightened collars and shirts, tucked wayward locks behind her ears, and then sent off to the class with gentle pats. She kept her mirth bottled within. Roma was smiling, but उसने अपनी smile को control किया. Without a word, she held out a few tissues towards Jeevan, trying to wipe the water dripping down his face from his overgrown hair with his wet tie. Fortunately, his shirt was wet too, or else Roma would have had to send him to the infirmary to change. And that was his intention last week. He hadn't returned to class at all. Taking the tissues from Roma, Jeevan called out loudly, "Thank you, miss," and sauntered carelessly into the class. Did they actually think it cool to behave like this? Roma wondered in amazement. She looked at the tall teenager next in the queue. Ah, Supriya, you won't be able to read today in your lovely voice if that hair gets into your eyes. She patted the nervous teenager on her cheek and then dug into her purse to fish out a few clips. You have such lovely eyes, Supriya. They don't need artifice, she said, and she clipped the loose hair away from the young girl's forehead. कैसे देखो टीचर धीरे 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 सिचुएशन संभाल रही है. Sorry, miss. Actually, I wanted to tell you ever since you came to our class that your eyes remind me of glazed chocolate sauce. The now relaxed adolescent mumbled, taken back at the easygoing attitude of the new teacher. Thank you. What a beautiful comparison. Now run along to the class. Roma laughingly sent Supriya off and then turned to look at the last one, whose skirt was riding high and uneven above the knees. She suppressed a smile at the bunched material around the waist. Teenagers, so funny at times. She studied the nervous teenager with both hands and bent down to tuck the skirt down to its rightful length, reassuring her softly, "You know what, Simi? You look much better now, very graceful and slender." The tall adolescent stared back in speechless confusion. Finally, Roma walked towards the classroom. Its walls were adorned with colorful displays on famous personalities. There was also math in sports poster and French word lists and poems by pupils pinned on the bulletin board. A class of 30 teenagers was scattered around the benches. Some were still at the door, hoping to escape to the refuge of the washroom, where some fellow escapees from other sections had already hiding, waiting for their partners in felony. So a few minutes could be stolen from the regular classroom routine and more productively used in teenage scrabble and gossip. So children are trying to kill the classroom time slowly. Sometimes a message was sent in the mobile phone tucked away in shirt, shoe, or pocket. Sometimes the device on silent mode or tapped beneath the desk, or coded messages on scraps of paper were sent using trusted and commissioned messengers. Hey, come to the washroom, waiting for you. Most of the class intentionally or reflexively ignored the new teacher's presence as she stood waiting for them to get into class, stand, and wish her good afternoon so that she could begin teaching the powerhouse classroom of 15-year-olds a romantic poem from the literature reader. It was the seventh period of the day, and she could feel the restlessness. She could almost hear the words, "Why couldn't she be absent? Have they nothing better to do? Why doesn't she ever suffer from migraine or diarrhea?" So students are saying, ये टीचर बीमार क्यों नहीं आती है, हमेशा क्लास में आती है. Last week, Roma had walked out of the class because she had no idea how to discipline the screaming class. They kept shouting and running all over the place as if she just did not exist or was invisible. One threw a paper ball that went over her head, another jumped over a bench. With a loud hoot, she had left. She had sat in the counselor's room seeking help. A long chat with Uttara, the counselor, after the humiliating incident had definitely helped. The first question the counselor had asked was she was willing to learn. Uttara had shared many scientific facts with her, which had absolutely amazed her. One was that the brain can absorb and retain information only for a specific period, something which is often overlooked in the classroom. So, this is an important fact. An important counselor tip is this: the brain can absorb and retain information only for a specific period, something which is often overlooked in the classroom. If it is our responsibility as teachers and parents to develop young minds, shouldn't we know how the brain works? This question has been posed by experts researching what makes learners' brains classroom compatible, Uttara said. Roma was completely fascinated. According to researcher Kenneth Wesson, no conversation about learning should ever take place unless the human brain is the centerpiece of that discussion. You see, the learner's brain established a vast number of neural connections as a result of learning experiences. However, when there is too much incoming information, the brain cannot transfer information to the association areas of the cerebral cortex fast enough. So brain का जो सीपीयू है, जब बहुत ज्यादा इंफॉर्मेशन होती है उसको प्रोसेस नहीं कर सकता. Feedback, decision making, and subsequent memory storage don't happen. Uttara, do a diagram of the brain showing the neural connections. So Uttara is trying to explain to Roma how a brain of a young person works. Why don't they want to sit in one place peacefully? रोमा ने पूछा कि आराम से एक जगह पे बैठते क्यों नहीं है? Mourned Roma, recalling the way all the students had been running around. क्योंकि क्लास में हरकत बहुत हो रही थी, so रोमा उसका solution ढूंढ रही है. Can you sit in one place for 40 minutes without moving? उत्तरा ने रोमा से पूछा, Can you sit 40 minutes without moving? Asked Uttara, smiling. Wesson warns that young learners in particular should not be made to sit motionless for extended periods during the school day. Their brains need a steady supply of oxygenated blood from physical movement. A typical classroom where students sit silently in tidy rows, prohibited from moving, listening, and seldom allowed to talk, all runs counter to an optimal learning environment in which the human brain learns the best. So the theory behind this is कि आपका जो youngster है उसके ब्रेन को ऑक्सीजन ज्यादा चाहिए होती है और वो हिलता डुलता रहता है तो उसको ऑक्सीजन प्राप्त होती रहती है और उसका ब्रेन काम करता है. अगर आप बच्चे को स्टैच्यू बना के क्लास में बिठा देंगे तो बच्चे का जो ब्रेन है वो स्लो हो जाएगा. सो दिस इज अ चैलेंज फॉर टीचर्स. रोमा आस्क्ड, what do you mean by physical movement? Well, you are an English and social science teacher. Involve kids regularly in theatrics, group discussions, role play, research based presentations, interviews with bankers, journalists, and archaeologists. Organize educational visits to museums or interactions with subject related external experts. This will make learning so much more interesting and also outbound. So, outbound, that's an example we have been given for way of involving people. Uttara was happy to see Roma taking the initiative to learn. So Roma is a new teacher. She is willing to learn. That is the beauty of a new teacher. What's wrong with tidy rows in a classroom, in fact? I thought it is good arrangement as it makes the class orderly, Roma asked. Roma, don't you change the furniture at home sometimes? Similarly, making occasional changes in the seating arrangement in the class works wonders by bringing in the excitement of change. Instead of tidy rows, you could have small groups of benches clustered together in a U-shaped arrangement, of which gives plenty of opportunity for the kids to look around. Uttara doodling the different class arrangements as she spoke. So Uttara ने रोमा को सजेस्ट किया कि आप अलग अलग क्लास अरेंजमेंट ट्राई करें अपनी क्लास में. इट विल इंप्रूव द लर्निंग एनवायरनमेंट. रोमा फाउंड द आइडिया इंट्रीगिंग. यू आर राइट उत्तरा. I'm sure an occasional arrangement like this will take away from the monotony of sitting in the same place and being stuck in the same position without a chance to do anything but look at the teacher. Possibly the students were bored, and that was why were running around, Roma thought herself. It wasn't they were trying to be rude when she entered, as she had thought already. Recall when you were in school and they raged, Roma. Didn't you want to run away from class? Uttara smiled mischievously. Roma remembered how she had been petrified by the very presence of the austere maths teacher in school. Their rowdy class had comprised of mischief makers, some goody two shoes, and a handful of real lawbreakers. So, goody two shoes is an interesting phrase. They had been at their wits' end by the seventh period. The words, take out your textbooks and start exercise 6, angles and circles, had elicited a piercing wolf whistle from somewhere amidst the sleeky oiled, tightly braided heads and seemingly innocent faces of the young girls in pale blue knee-length skirts and green shirts. A stunned look came over the maths teacher's face. In her anger, she forgot the rules of grammar and furiously asked, who whistled? Nobody had answered, although they all knew there was only one girl who could whistle like that. Class unity was strong even then. Stand up on the bench, now, said the teacher, absolutely livid. 35 girls climbed onto the benches and stood tucking their skirts beneath their knees because the windows overlooked a narrow street full of boys from the neighboring school waiting for the final bell. The secret of the whistler remained with the girls, now grown into mature women. Some were housewives, others working professionals, and the whistler a senior official with UNICEF. Roma understood one did not need to be an MA or MSc to understand the psychology of downhearted class, only to have a 15-year-old in class 10 yourself, a bored class that needed a small break from consecutive periods and teachers walking in mechanically to complete the day's teaching course with single handed focus. She promised herself she would never walk out of class again. So instead of getting angry, Roma stood silently as each child in the next 5 minutes looked at her with different expressions: routine obedience, reluctant acceptance, boredom, arrogance, and indifference. Begin with a greeting or some compliment. Don't reveal agitation had been Uttara's golden advice. So counselor ने बोला कि आप जब क्लास में जाएं हमेशा पॉजिटिव नोट में उसे शुरू करें, कभी भी क्लास को नेगेटिव नोट से शुरू मत करें. Good afternoon. How was your day today? Good, Roma asked with a smile. She could feel half the battle was won. So जो पॉजिटिव एनर्जी टीचर क्लास में लेके जाता है उससे काफी आइस ब्रेकिंग हो जाती है और इट बिकम्स इजियर फॉर द क्लास टू फंक्शन. So we are trying to figure out what happened next. We had a terrible day, miss, ab bacche bole. 2 periods of science and a block period of math. Just imagine 2 consecutive math periods. Can we go out? We haven't had a PT class in 2 weeks. It's so sunny and beautiful outside after the rain. We finished the new math exercise in the last play period. Roma knew she had to complete the work for the upcoming test. Her wisdom was about to be tested. What if we talk about something very interesting today and I take you out in the next class? Cross my heart. She noted skeptical expressions on the disappointed faces and could almost hear the inaudible words, rubbish, that day will never come, and eyewash, that is what this is, torture, another 35 minutes. Roma had also learned in the last few days that according to research done by Barry Shalloner, Director, Center of Early Intervention, when teachers talk to children, they give them language by processing feelings and cognitive skills, as a result of which connections are made between the brain's speech and emotional centers, literally building brain parts. This makes the brain more receptive to learning. Roma knew talking seldom happened in class. It was always listen, learn, and write. Really? Yes. Like what asked? Raki asked, resting her chin on her upturned palm. What is the most important phrase of growing up? Something which many adolescents experience, asked Roma. Friendship, family, school life, tuitions, bunking classes, weekends, movies, music, mobile phones, soccer, volleyball. A volley of excited answers came in chorus. Still, the answer Roma wanted did not come. Anything else that is very important in a young person's life? Making love? Roma froze in horror. Speechless for a moment, she did not know how to react to such an audacious reply. She had expected love or maybe infatuation, which would have led to the context of the poem, but she had not been prepared for this bold and direct answer from the most notorious student, Ajit, known to traumatize teachers with such answers. Should I ignore the question and pretend I have not heard the remark? She asked herself as challenging eyes bored into her face. No, that would mean running away from the situation. And possibly it would occur again. Ajit would know he had succeeded in embarrassing her. and he would repeat his behavior, knowing he would get away with such impudent remarks. She was not going to get angry or overreact. Mentally, she counted from 1 to 10, straightened her spine, and with a twinkle in her eye, she walked up the aisle towards Ajit. He leaned back casually, unconcerned, his face tilted to one side as he fearlessly watched her come toward him. Do you think physical relationships are most important part of life? If that was so, we wouldn't be reading and talking so much about breakups and couples moving on in life, right? There was fascination in the youngsters' faces. The class, stunned by Ajit's audacious answer, had expected retribution. How dare you? Get out of the class right now, not acceptance. So, what do you think keeps relationships going? If the physical aspect is not the only semantic factor, Roma asked casually, it is, of course, an important aspect of adult relationships, but to keep the wrapper long lasting and meaningful, what else do you think is important? She said, trying to draw responses from the class. See how tactfully she's going about it. Trust, faith, commitment, respect of each other. Sensible answers came from different directions. She had got most of the responses she needed to begin on the poem. None of the class realized she had taught them the poem amidst many questions from the class as such. What, according to you, miss, is love? And especially, what in your opinion on teens in love? Although casually asked, Roma knew her answer was important to everyone there. She smiled and answered, it is beautiful to be in love. A person in love finds the world magical and rosy. It's a phase in everyone's life. There is nothing wrong with that. But the way you handle the emotion is an important challenge. When all is said and done, you cannot forget your first priority in school to study, to be educated. You come to school to find the place in the world that is yours alone, to stand on your own feet, although you may believe that friends should accept you the way you are. They will be proud if you perform well. Respect is important in a relationship, any relationship. The lesson was completed, the assignments were readily accepted. The next day, English class was spent on the basketball court. Promises had to be kept no matter what. As Uttara had said, learning did not necessarily happen only behind closed doors. Movement should be an integral part of teaching. We'll pause here. So, there are some takeaways from today's reading. Anyone wants to tell us what they take away from today's reading? The floor is open to anyone. You can just speak. What are the important elements you take away from today's reading? In case you don't want to speak, you can write in the chat box. What do you take away from this reading? Roma, an experienced new teacher who's on temporary job for 6 months, goes to class, a senior class, and how she goes in and counters them, takes on their insolent behavior. What do you think you take away from this as a teacher? You saw how we started from the staff room, the conversations, I'm sure you experienced them. And then the class, I'm sure some of them have experienced what the class did today and how Roma went about to handle the situation. Any takeaways? Anyone want to mention takeaways from here? From today's reading, we're in the last minute, so I thought I'd ask you about takeaways, and then we will conclude the class within 45 minutes. Open to anyone telling us what are the takeaways. Anyone can unmute and tell us what do you think you take away from today's reading. When a teacher enters a class, have you experienced something like this? This behavior of children, the battle between the boys and the girls, which happens in a co-ed class.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, please.
Yes. So, what I learned from today's story is that the teacher should have patience and should allow students to answer. We should not judge whether the answer is right or wrong. We should invite and let them speak.
Yes, it's a very important element. Teacher should be a good listener. And like you said, a very good thing, you should not use any judgment. It's important for a teacher never to use any judgment. So in this case, because the boy was unruly kept, wet hair, cool dude, teacher could have judged he's a troublemaker. बट आपने देखा कि टीचर ने उस बॉय को भी कैसे हैंडल किया. एक जो लड़की अपने आप को बहुत स्मार्ट समझती थी, टीचर ने कैसे कैसे प्यार से उसको हैंडल किया. उसने ये जजमेंट नहीं अडॉप्ट की कि ये लड़की अपने आप को समझती है, मैं इसे ठीक कर दूंगी. ऐसा नहीं किया टीचर ने. इन अ वेरी क्राफ्टी वे you have to get the confidence of your students. That's the message you take away from this chapter, War and Peace. We'll read this in two parts. We'll read comfortably. We won't read ahead today. We have put a bookmark here. If you have the book, great. If you don't, please get the book. It's a book worth investing in for your teaching career. So I've created the bookmark and I'm adding the bookmark to our WhatsApp chat. We will now meet on the 14th of March. Is that right? Next Saturday will be 14th. Can anyone check the calendar? We will meet at 3 p.m. and the bookmark is added to the WhatsApp chat. The WhatsApp chat, by the way, was named the Teachers Academy. It becomes easier to find it because we are the Teachers Academy program. Learning Forward was a little difficult to find, so we renamed the group. I hope that's okay with everyone. If you have any questions before we close today, there's no homework today. They were just reading, and reading will continue. And next time when Brinda's here, we will discuss more about this chapter. Once we have discussed the chapter, then you will share with us your experiences where you have experienced war and peace in the classroom. And your stories is what we want to hear. We don't want you to tell us that Roma went to the class, she saw this. No, that we know, it's there in the book. But आप क्लास में गए, कैसे आप क्लासरूम अपने लाउंज में जाते हैं, स्टाफ रूम में जाते हैं, कैसे आपकी कॉन्वर्सेशंस होती हैं, कैसे वो जो स्टाफ रूम है एक स्पंज की तरह काम करता है, जहां आप अपने चैलेंजेस और अपनी मुश्किलें छोड़ के क्लास में जाती हैं या जाते हैं, कैसे स्टाफ रूम के एटमॉस्फेयर से जब आप क्लास में जाते हैं, रास्ते में क्या माहौल होता है, आपके मन में क्या बात होती है, और क्लासरूम में जाने के बाद आपके सामने क्या अंजाम प्रकट होता है, ये हम आपसे सुनना चाहेंगे at a later stage on reflections. So that's all for today. Thank you for your patience. It's been a wonderful Saturday afternoon. I hope you all had a good Holy Week and all the color has gone off from the teachers' faces. Maybe some of you still have. So it takes time sometimes colors to go off. And that's why in this chapter, the girls got away by saying कि हम कहीं गए थे फंक्शन पे तो हमारे काजल लगा है अभी इसीलिए है. But actually काजल उन्होंने same day लगाया था. So color is part of life and we humans always like color. Thank you so much. Anyone want to say anything?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Toshi, thank you.
Thank
Anything?
you.
आप कुछ कहना चाहती हैं तोशी?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
God bless you. Thank you, PYDS Learning
Thank you,
Academy.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
सुनीता जी, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगी?
नहीं सर, जैसे रिफ्लेक्शन के लिए आपने बोला तो ये हम अपना अनुभव भी दे सकते हैं ना, कि जैसे मेरे साथ
आपको अपना ही देना है. अभी अभी रिफ्लेक्शन की बारी नहीं है. अभी हम चैप्टर पढ़ते रहेंगे. आज भी हम चैप्टर पढ़ा, अगली बार भी पढ़ेंगे, फिर हम आपस में बातचीत करेंगे और फिर आप रिफ्लेक्शन करेंगी.
ओके ओके सर.
रिफ्लेक्शन होगा वो तीसरे हफ्ते में होगा जाके. अभी पहला हफ्ता है.
या
तो
सर.
हाँ, अभी मकसद ये है कि आप और हम अच्छी तरह पढ़ने की कोशिश करें. ये मकसद है. हम लोग ज्यादा क्यों पढ़ते हैं? ताकि आप धीरे धीरे जब हम पढ़ते हैं आप वर्ड्स पिकअप कर सकें. क्योंकि जब आप हिंदी टीचर होती हैं आपको इंग्लिश के वर्ड्स पिकअप करना इतना आसान नहीं होता. बहुत हिचकिचाहट होती है और आप सबके सामने ये बात कर भी नहीं सकती कि मुझे ये वर्ड की साउंड ठीक नहीं आ रही, ये वर्ड प्रोनाउंस कैसे करना है. तो वृंदा और मैं इस करके खास करके ऊंचा ऊंचा पढ़ते हैं, रीड अलाउड करते हैं, इसलिए
Yes, sir.
ताकि आपको वर्ड्स की करेक्ट प्रोनाउंसिएशंस मिल सकें। और जब आपको करेक्ट प्रोनाउंसिएशन मिल जाएगी, उससे आपका थॉट प्रोसेस शार्पर होगा। तो हमारा जो
Yes, sir.
पहला हफ्ता होता है और दूसरा हफ्ता ये रीडिंग में फोकस करता है। रीडिंग के बाद आता है रिफ्लेक्शन का समय, और जब रिफ्लेक्शन का समय आएगा तब आप अपना एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करेंगे और पोस्ट कर सकते हैं। अभी कुछ पोस्ट नहीं करना। अभी आप अपनी
नहीं,
एग्जाम की कॉपी करेक्ट कीजिए, शांत रहिए, आराम से। कोई होमवर्क नहीं है इस हफ्ते भी और अगले हफ्ते भी। जब अगले
yes,
हफ्ते जब अगले हफ्ते मिलेंगे फिर होमवर्क मिलेगा। तब तक उम्मीद है आपके एग्जाम्स थोड़े निकल जाएंगे।
yes, sir.
थैंक यू।
जय हिंद सर,
जय
थैंक यू
हिंद।
सर।
जय हिंद।
Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू।